Another edition of ACC Baseball Etc. It is presented, as always, by our friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. Go to pitchlogic.com for more information. It is another of our preseasoning conversations with all 16 ACC baseball head coaches. It still feels weird to say that number when referring to the ACC and its number of teams, but I'm happy to be joined by, entering his third year as head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Erik Bakich. Erik, good to see you. This is such a fun time of the year for me because I get to check in with everybody, all these coaches that I have not seen in a while. So I hope you're doing well. Hope the holidays treated you well, and I hope you're ready, man, because it's going to be here before we know it.
That's it. Yeah. No, thanks for having me, Daron. Happy New Year. Great to be on. Good to see you. Yeah, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. So I mentioned this will be year number 3 for you as head coach there at Clemson. We talked shortly after you were hired, I remember. What would you say are the major differences in your job, your comfortability with the job between then and now, entering year 1 versus entering year 3?
Nothing in terms of recruiting and player development. Like that's I think there's going to be a lot of consistency over the years. It's all the stuff on the periphery that's totally different. You know, the way the landscape has changed, and now putting the spotlight on our players and making a concerted effort to try to, help them build their personal brands, because we're about 5 months and 18 days, if you're counting, until the world really changes, and then NIL has to be commercially driven. So we're all in on helping our guys secure the best deals in the above the cap space. That's where the next Wild West is going to be, is who's going to be good above the cap. And so we're gonna do whatever we can to help our guys get their influence and their followings up. And obviously the great players, it's going to be easy for the great players, but we're gonna make a concerted effort for everybody on the team. So and that's like, personally, that's a vested interest. I don't think I'm speaking on behalf of the university here. So
sure.
But it's totally different in that regard. The conversations and the thought process and just the day-to-day, when you're looking at, how can we get our players the most money possible? That's never really, been a conversation stitched outside of scholarships and so on. So this is a new one, and that's probably the biggest difference just within the last few years.
Yeah, it's striking how quickly all of this is changing. And every conversation I have with a coach, that is an inevitability of it, right? It's going to get back to, wow, things are different. We're kind of evolving. We got to take it in stride. I see you as a very stoic person. You like challenges. How have you enjoyed this challenge, particularly when it comes to the just kind of the landscape changing in that way?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's given us opportunities to go way out of the box, whether it's playing the Savannah Bananas, or some of the deals that we're making for equipment and vendors for our team. There'd be, in the next couple of weeks, there'll be a big announcement on, one of our equipment partners. So we're doing, everything we can possibly do to be unique and create some separation from, maybe what everyone else is doing. And, getting to know Jesse Cole with the Savannah Bananas and just kind of seeing how he lives by this philosophy of, what everyone else does, do the opposite. It's been really cool. And it's created some neat unlocks of, how can we make our atmosphere at our games different and more unique than what everyone else does. Obviously we can't, do the Savannah Bananas in its entirety, but we can do a few things that they've done and make our games more exciting. So actually the the field renovations that we're doing right now, we're literally under construction, like right there. It's all centered around, atmosphere and a fan experience, and putting the fan, to steal one of Jesse Cole's lines, a fan first type of target. So there'll be some fun, neat things happening at Doug Kingsmore Stadium this season. But we are literally in the space of trying to do some things maybe no one else is doing right now.
I love that embracing of all of this. So just I didn't expect the conversation to go in this direction. I was going to ask about the Bananas, but while we're here, I've got a touch point with Jesse Cole in that I called games in the Coastal Plain League in the way back, the early days, before the Bananas, before any of this, for lack of a better way to put it. I don't mean this as a pejorative, but before the gimmicky stuff, right? He was the owner of the Gastonia Grizzlies at the time, and one of their team colors was they were black and gold or black and yellow, and that's where the yellow tuxedo debuted. And he was insistent upon some of these values, the fan first stuff, even then, in what was a very conventional, traditional baseball atmosphere and environment. So he took some heat, right? And it's been interesting to, I would not have been able to guess at the time that he would have bolstered to this Savannah Bananas and the Party Animals, and now it's a massive franchise. So I love that you have taken to getting to know him and trying to insert some of that stuff with the environment at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. That's so cool.
Well, he's a creative genius, and what he's built and the league that he's building now, expanding beyond the Party Animals and the Savannah Bananas, but to the Firefighters and the Texas Tailgaters, and then he's going to add 4 more teams. So start with a league of 8. But the baseball community loves it. I mean, it's just so unconventional. It's so much fun, and actually getting to experience it. Everyone's seen the videos, but until you actually do it in person, it's a totally different experience in person. I felt more like the next day would put the mental I don't know what the word is. I was more mentally drained after one game with the Savannah Bananas than a 3-game set of nail biter ACC conference play. I mean, it is just, and that's because you are so entertained, and there's just no off switch. There's no pause button. It is full tilt, all go every second. There's something happening. If you blink, you're going to miss something. I mean, I would totally encourage everyone who has never been to a Savannah Bananas game to get out and see one, and then just start thinking, man, how could college baseball adopt some of these things to make it more fun for the fans, for us too? And that's what we're going to try to do this year, is kind of get away from that typical, like Jesse said, baseball's boring. And it, outside of like home runs and web gems and, exciting action on the field, there's a lot of downtime in our game. And so how can we fill that with more things that'll entertain the fans and keep them coming and keep them engaged and create that 10th man atmosphere, and so on and so on.
That's so great. In the interest of pivoting to your Clemson Tigers team, which is more intense, a game of banana ball or a super regional against Florida?
It depends who's the umpiring crew.
Well, let's get to your team. I know you're excited about the group. I think the marquee, the headliner, of course, is Cam Cannarella, who I believe it was the first ACC series of the season for you in that first year. And I was there and calling the game on ACCNX, and I quickly pronounced Cam as my new favorite ACC player at the time. And we talked about it then, just sort of the way he carries himself. And then it turns out he's a spectacular talent as well. What have you observed about his growth from that time, year one, where he was kind of off the radar for college baseball fans, ACC baseball fans, and here he is now a projected first-round draft pick?
Yeah, he's our little superhero. He can just do things on a field that other people can't do. He has this ability to improvise, where he defensively, especially, he just like creates, things out of nothing. And then offensively and defensively too, but offensively especially, he just has that clutch gene that everybody's wanting to quantify. And how do you put a number on it? And you just know some guys have it or they don't. And he's got it. He gets big clutch hits in big moments. Every coach wants, your big time players to step up in big time games, and he's kind of the epitome of that. I mean, that game 2 of the Super Regional had no business going as long as it did. And Cam's the reason it extended, and he hits the 3-run homer to tie it. He makes the game-saving catch in center field that would have ended the game, because Florida was the home team in that game, in that particular game. He's running off the field saying, "I told y'all I didn't want to go home," but he just is, he's got a superpower inside of him that I don't know if you can quantify it, but it's, he's just one of those kids that, if he can stay healthy, and he's a guy that's got a chance to play the game a long, long time.
Yeah, no doubt. Who else excites you to have back on this Clemson team? Or maybe it's a newcomer. First several that come to mind, if you want. Just what else excites you about this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have premier talents, someone to point to, like you said, Cam Cannarella on the position side of things, and then Aiden Canuck on the pitching side of things, you got 2 marquee players on both sides of the ball. You feel good about building the rest of the group from there. And so, Aiden's a marquee talent from a pitching standpoint, true student of the game. Had a great year this time last year. I don't think we could have predicted what he would have ended up being, especially National Freshman Pitcher of the Year. But, it's you knew just based on, the things he was doing that were different than other freshmen, like journaling and video watching, and really being a student of the mental game, and like just things that were just a little bit different. Everybody works hard, and but he did a few things that were just above and beyond, and tapped into the extraordinary, and it fueled his success, at least his ability to consistently perform towards the top of his skill set. And that's really what great players are. They're just more consistent than good players or average players. So having those 2 guys kind of as the 2 headliners, then we've got some great pieces. It's hard to talk about what the newcomers are going to do because they haven't done it yet. But some transfers have some credentials at their previous schools. And then we've got plenty of other guys that, are back and have put up numbers here in the past. And so we feel good about our depth and feel good about our chances. Should be a team that has no excuses of why we can't be competing to be one of the last teams standing.
Let me follow up on Aiden, if you would. The journaling and attention to the mental side. Is there a moment that stands out as kind of your first impression of, oh, wow, this dude approaches it maybe a little bit differently than most?
Yeah, it was the accumulation effect of just kind of how he approached last fall. Because last fall he actually was sidelined for a good bit, so it really wasn't into the preseason. And we were fortunate to have Spencer Strider come and talk to us, and it was like listening to Spencer Strider talk about his approach and how much of a student of the game he is, and what he does on a daily, weekly basis, and treats each outing, and just the objectivity that with the lens that he sees pitching through. It was like, oh, that's Aiden. Like those 2 are like 2 peas in a pod. So I think that conversation that Spencer had with our team confirmed some things for Aiden that maybe he was already doing, and then he was able to take it to another level. But just seeing the consistent buy-in and the routine, it's really just, these guys that are really consistent, they have a great routine, and he's got a great routine week to week.
Yeah. Did Aiden maybe pick anything up over the summer that when he brought it to the fall, or now that the spring semester is beginning, that is just sort of additive to that whole process?
Yeah, I mean, you know how these guys are. They're always wanting to add pitches. You know, they've got these, you know, two or three great pitches and they want a fourth or a fifth. And so, you know, he's actually been working on that. He's been working on a fourth pitch, more of a like a um, cutter slider thing. And you know, you'd see him like he'd be in our inner squads and you could see that he was working on it. And you know, a lot of guys will turn and do the velo check, but he wasn't looking at the velo. He was looking at the movement profile of the ball, because we put that on the board as well. And so, you know, just making sure, and then he's, you know, tinkering with, you know, finger pressure and grips and so on and so on. So it's fun to watch when a guy's like that, because it's you know, you think to like, you know, our day of Greg Maddux and like a true, you know, Jedi master out there. And, you know, Aiden's got some of that now. You know, he's got to, you know, he's got to stay hungry and, you know, just like Cam last year, you know, you got to think about what made them have that great first season. Were they trying to be an All-American, or were they put the target on competing and working hard? And so that's where I think these two guys in particular are really good, is they don't put the target on external things. Cam's smart enough to not put the target on the draft, or on accolades or stats or awards, but just continue to put the target on competing and getting better. And certainly Aiden's going to be in that same boat.
Yeah. Thinking big picture about your team, we mentioned Cam in center field, and you think foundationally, it's often said you got to be strong up the middle, right? You've got Jacob Jarrell, who I assume will be primarily in the catcher spot behind home plate,
Yeah.
who's been with your team for a few years now, and that is some stability there. Jaron Purify, probably second base, right? So I think catcher, middle infield, center field. Jaron stands to continue developing and progressing there. And then I see a bunch of guys on the left side of the infield, Erik. And I don't know that you have an idea yet of who's going to be at that shortstop spot, who's going to be at third. What's the mix look like over there?
Sure. Well, I don't, you know, it's a good thing we're not writing the lineup out tomorrow or today.
Sure. Yeah.
But we do have great options. And so, you know, yeah, Jacob Jarrell that's a position I could safely say today that he's earned that. And, you know, just what he's done, his credentials and resume in this program, and how he leads the other catching core group of guys. Like he's really established himself and separated. And then the infielders, you know, we got some really good infielders. Not just Jaron Purify, but Tristan McClatty's made a huge jump, and he can play on the right side of the infield as well as third base. And then, you know, Andrew Chufo came back. He tore his ACL halfway through the year. We're 28-3, and I think he was going on a streak of 22 or 25 errorless games. Like he was really consistent, just a steady Eddie defender at short before he got hurt. And but he's back from injury, and certainly a great candidate to play shortstop. The other guy we got was the WAC Defensive Player of the Year, Josh Pano. And he's also a great candidate that can play shortstop, you know, and whoever's not playing short can also play third and as well. And then we have, you know, the emergence of a couple of other guys as well. Jay Dillard was hitting in our 3-hole in against the Bananas and Alabama when we played them this fall, because he had really earned it and played well this fall. And then we have a newcomer kid named Josh Castellani that, you know, has got a very bright future in this program. And, you know, he's one of those kids where you don't know how, but you just know at some point he's going to factor in, he's going to figure out how to get onto that field. So the infield is crowded at second, short, and third for sure. And we also have lots of guys that can play first. So you know, good problems to have, but we got some problems right now, the 9-man lineup.
Is this as deep, maybe at least in the infield, as it's been in your time there?
Yeah, for sure. We were counting out, there's, you know, about 14 guys that, you know, really deserve to be in a 9-man lineup. And so for us, it's going to figure out kind of that revolving door of how to keep everybody happy and how to keep everybody in there. But there's some really good hitters on this team that are going to be sitting on the bench at times. So I wish we could hit more than 9, but we'll have some figure it out moments as the early goings of the season to get a lot of guys some action.
Yeah, I don't know all the intricacies of banana ball, but they can bat more than 9 at some point, I think, right? Maybe not that we're trying to turn ACC baseball into that. With the pitching staff, we talked about Aiden. You've got Ethan Darden coming back. I mean, that's a proven left-hander. Jacob McGovern is coming back as well. What excites you about what you've got on that side of things?
Yeah, it's the depth again. We'll figure out the exact roles. We know Aiden's going to be one of our starters, but it's like if you were going back to front, you got Lucas Malstadt is back, who was arguably one of our most valuable pitchers, just from the ability to close games, but also go more than an inning and then pitch on more than one day on the weekend. He can be extended on a game and pitch multiple games in a weekend series. So that's extremely valuable. And he's a true slot changer. He's mostly been submarine, but now he's also played with an overhand slot and throws all pitches up here as well. So it's hard to game plan against a guy like that. Reed Garris has also been a proven steady Eddie guy in the back end of a bullpen. Has done it for a couple of years now. And so having those two guys at the back is super valuable. And then, we've got a lot of candidates who can start and relieve all the way through. You mentioned Darden. Justin Lagernick has made some huge strides, another left-hander, sinker ball guy like Darden. The emergence of a new kid, Dane Muller, son of former big leaguer Brian Muller, has really advanced for a young kid. We got to transfer Michael Gillen, who had really good numbers, at Seton Hall the last couple of years, and he'll factor in there. So, and you mentioned McGovern too. I mean, he's just got a way to get outs, and I think I'm probably forgetting a lot of really important pitchers as well, Drew Titsworth and plenty of others that had decent numbers over the last year or two. But feel really good about our pitching staff, especially knowing we got a true number one, and then we got options to piece it together after that.
Yeah. What is the cooperation like between you and your pitching coach, Jimmy Ballinger, when it comes to those guys? For lack of a better word, it sounds like there's a lot of tinkering with the guys, trying to add pitches, trying to mix up arm slots. And that's awesome. Like, I think that's the kind of additive stuff that this time of the year in the fall is meant for, right?
The relationship is best when I stay out of his way, and because I'm always trying to make everything game like, and they got to do their mental game routine and take their breath in the bullpen, and he's working on pitch design or something. But Jimmy Bellinger is, I'll tell you what, it's simplistic genius. He has very, very unique skill set, because his competitive New Yorker, where he's from, always comes out, and it's just, show toughness and, stand up on that mound like you're a bad man, and just, but it's attack the zone. It's 64% strikes, but he's also really bought into all the advancements over the last decade of tech and data. And we have all the gadgets now. We have Maven Lab in our pitching bullpen. We're always looking at how can we understand the tech and metrics so well that we can speak it in simple terms to our players so they can use it. That's where I see a lot of friction points in the game today, is a lot of people, have all these evaluative tech and data that tell you, if something's good or bad, if the ball flight is good or bad, or if the spin is good or bad, or the movement's good or bad, but not always are very skilled at being able to connect okay, how do we improve this now? Connect those dots. And that's where he and our strength coach, Rick Franzblaw, and the sports science team that we've got here have, made some huge strides in the last few years, and, be able to be bilingual and be able to, not only speak tech data, but also, when you need to be a caveman out there and just show toughness and throw strikes, be able to marry the two. And that's given us a lot of success over the last couple of years, and it will be a big reason why we'll be successful this year too.
Being bilingual, I like that. you having been a player and then also just kind of having the mind for it, you strike me as a coach who that's very important too, right? Kind of the balance. At some point, you just got to be a baseball player, but data is that's facts, right? So you would be naive to not use it in certain cases. As a head coach, and you can include your time at Michigan here too. What's been the progression of yours, just in between your years of how much you want to use certain things analytically, managing the balance between the two? How has that evolved throughout your head coaching career?
I think you have to evolve. You have to continue to grow, or you're going to get left behind. And so, we had a great staff at Michigan. Coach Nick Schnabel, man, he's been my ride or die from day one. But he's another guy that is always looking for ways to improve. And our staff at Michigan, when we had two current major league coaches, Michael Berdar and Chris Fetter, on our staff, they were excellent at searching for new ideas as well, and trying to stay on the cutting edge. And so I thought 2018 was really a pivotal year for us, where we kind of we were always going one way, and then we really pivoted and really learned the golf industry and got to know the teachings of the Titleist Performance Institute and Greg Rose, and how to unlock the human body, and from kind of a joint by joint, from the ground up type of approach. And that was 7 years ago, and you can imagine the rabbit holes that we've been going down since. And it's been a lot of fun, and just constantly learning something new. And then getting here 3 years ago, and learning from our strength coach, who I thought I had a pretty good handle on how the human body moves, and just how to access ground force, and how to transfer it as efficiently as possible. And then he follows a completely different type of model, where he's really looking at anatomical structure and creating training templates based on how a guy is built, whether he's wide or narrow, and how he accesses energy from the ground. And that's been a whole nother rabbit hole of unlocking. So it's been a lot of fun. I truly enjoy it, because I truly feel like, as a head coach, it's just, constantly learning and surrounding yourself with people that are smarter and better. And, I just have that insatiable thirst to just keep getting better and keep learning new things. And, luckily the staff here is excellent, and I keep learning from them. And that's it, man. That's a big part of it. And it's been one of the drivers of not only the player development success, but just the enjoyment factor of watching these players truly unlock, whatever their max potential is, to unlock it or get it as close to possible as the max.
Give me the names of just like one or two players who are totally, I guess, above average level, bought into that sort of the biomechanics, and like, who's, you're geeking out about it. To me, I think it's fascinating. Had I the time with the subject matter, I know I would geek out as well. Who fits that description on your team?
Tristan Becerra and Jacob Jarrell come to mind. I mean, they're into all the alternative stuff. I mean, they're always looking for new ways of improving. But we got a lot of guys like that, just because we encourage it. I mean, it's we're not cookie cutters ever, and we're always looking for new ways to unlock individual guys. And we have some philosophical, fundamental things, but we're all smart enough to know that there's never one way to do it. And the worst hitting coaches are the ones who think there's only one way to do it. I see stuff online, and everybody's got to dump the barrel, or everybody's got to do this, and it's just like, that doesn't work when the scoreboard matters and you're trying to get players to play well. It might work in a facility, but it doesn't work in real games.
Yeah. Last thing for you, and I'll let you go and wish you well into this spring season. Is there something this offseason that you watched or read, something that sticks out that maybe It doesn't have to be something that you've implemented with the team or a philosophy or a motto or whatever going into the season. Just like, is there something you watched or read this offseason that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I've been going down the rabbit holes of the Andrew Huberman Labs and podcasts, Dr. Peter Attia, and just really, for me, it's all about unlocking the brain and understanding hormones and brain chemicals is where I've really put a lot of my energy and attention the last couple of years, and that's been really fascinating. And so that's kind of where I've been and where I'm at and where I continue to be. But unlocking the brain that's the next conquest.
You unlock the brain, you unlock the 2025 Tigers, right? That's the key. That's the well, Erik, I appreciate it as always. Great to see you. Best of luck this spring. I will see you. I know for sure I've got at least a series there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, so I'll be there to call some games, and I'm sure we'll talk otherwise as well. But thanks for the time. Good luck this year.
Hey, thank you. All right. See you, Daron.